Welcome to another episode of the Journeys of Not So Ordinary People podcast. And of course, I'm Dr. Joe Hamlett, along with my partner in crime, Dr. Dave Peltz. How are you doing, sir?
Most excellent, sir.
All right. Well, good to hear. Well, as always, if you've tuned in before, if you're part of our audience that continues to come back, thanks for returning for another episode. And if this is your first time tuning into us, welcome. Again, hopefully you'll gain something from this. So, this is the personal, professional, and career development podcast. So, we try and help you get to that next level, potentially gain some success in whatever you're trying to accomplish. So hopefully we can provide you with some tips or some type of nuggets that might help you. So with all that being said, in our normal fashion, one of us will introduce the topic, and then the other co-host will get us going. And so with that, I am starting off today. So I will throw this in Dave's park. So what do you have to offer, Dave? So that is our
What do you have
topic.
to offer, Joe?
What do you
So,
have
no,
to?
what do
I
you
asked you
have? No,
first.
what do you
No, I
have?
asked you first.
So, what do you offer? This is a great topic. As usual, we discussed this a few moments offline, and it's a different and interesting perspective.
Right,
Usually we're talking about a lot of introspection, and this is another piece of that introspective piece, but it's more from a pragmatic view. What do you offer is a serious question. If it's within a relationship, whether it's in your personal life, if it's in your professional life, what do you bring to your team? If it's for career development, what do you bring to the company? So when we talk about what do you offer, we want you to think about that and really, really think about it because, are you the type of person that just wants to punch the clock and go home and be with your family? That's fine. Companies and
right.
businesses need that type of person.
Yeah,
We need those workers. We also need the individuals that are wanting to develop and learn. We also want those hard chargers, those individuals that are want to be, that are going to be our future leaders. So when we think about what do you offer, we want you to really think about what do you offer. It's along the lines of what do you bring to the table, but it's not just what are
yeah,
you bringing to the table. It's what are you offering. It's beyond. Hey, I brought us fruit salad. It's hey, I'm going to give you the recipe to the fruit salad, and then I'm going to show you how to make it, and then we're going to make it together, sort of thing. What do you offer to the scenario or scene that you're in? And I think about, like in a resume, the old objective statement up at the top. That was some
right.
air
Yeah,
quotes. Objective is to get the job, so you don't need an objective statement. Everyone knows what the objective is, otherwise you wouldn't be
right.
applying. So what do you offer is a much more impactful way to get the attention of those around you. So when we talk about strengths and weaknesses, or areas of opportunity that you want to develop, or what do you really offer that others can benefit from, that's an important question to really contemplate and discuss. So that's what we're going to be talking about today is what do you offer?
Okay. Well, Dave, I think you got us started on at a good point. So when we first kind of tossed that around. I mean, even at the beginning, we tossed it around just because, yeah, you really have to think about what do I offer? Who am I?
Mhm.
What is my brand? What do I
Mhm.
be want to be known for? What am I offering for the success of the organization? What am I offering at home in my relationship? So that's a you really do have to think about, yeah, what am I offering? Um, am I bringing to the table? What
Mhm.
am I going to be known for? What is the things that I am going to help get this organization or myself over the hump? So that is you talked about introspective um, of who we are, what we do, what we bring to the table. And I think back to years ago when I had a supervisor give me some low marks on my performance,
Mhm.
and I was upset about it. So I went to a friend and I thought he was going to be on my side, and he was going to say, "Yeah, that was wrong, and he shouldn't have done that." And really, to be honest, he was a good friend because he told me, "Yeah, I wonder too. What do you offer?
Mhm.
Why should he look at you any different when this is what he sees. So
Mhm.
if you want him to appreciate what you offer, then you need to bring it to the table. So that was my first introduction to maybe I think I'm bringing more than I actually was. And
Mhm.
it took a good friend to remind me, hey, really, you need to take a look at yourself in the mirror
Mhm.
because what you think you're offering is not exactly what you're offering.
Right.
So that is a huge part of our success, who we are, again, our brand. When we're not in the room, what are people saying that we're offering?
Mhm.
And I've heard those conversations when come back and someone will tell me, "Hey, this is what people think you offer.
Mhm.
This is, so it may not be what you think, but this is what people are saying. This is what people think what you bring to the table. So it's
Mhm.
very important if you want to be perceived a different way or seen as bringing certain things, then you have to make sure that that's really what you're doing. So
Mhm.
I think that conversation needs to be had.
Yeah, it reminds me of when I was in college, early in my college learning time, and I was doing well. I did well throughout my college years, and I also gained a different type of confidence. In the military, we weren't learned one type of confidence about ourselves. In education, I learned another type of confidence because when I was doing well, I tended to be the class clown, making
Right,
jokes and
right,
stuff. And my instructors told me that's fine as long as you're at the top of your class and you're not interfering or obstructing the learning process.
right,
And I was like, wow. And they did say, you do bring, you're smart, you got this information down, but don't interfere with other people's learning by trying to be that class clown and always cracking jokes. There's an appropriate time for that. And I was like, wow, that really kind of put me in my place on what I was offering because I thought I was, being the humor guy and that sort of thing. And I was, but that's not what I was offering. I
right,
needed to be offering something different for that environment. During the breaks, I could be a cut up in a class clown. In class, I needed to be that focused student that was there to help others learn.
right.
And if I wasn't helping others learning, then I needed to be learning myself. So we think about what do I offer or what do you offer? That's the sort of thing we're talking about. If you say you're an expert in training development and public speaking, you better be an expert at it. And saying you're an expert, there is some perspective in that.
Right.
Subjectivity, if you will. Everyone has their own opinion, and we need to make sure that how we want to be viewed is how we're actually being perceived. If I'm coming across as this overconfident jerk, but I'm saying I'm an expert in public speaking, they may be concerned that I'll present myself that way when I speak publicly. So we need to make sure that we are aligned with ourselves and what we offer. It could also be as a family, if your family and your personal relationships, you want to be that go-to person. But if you're a jerk, people may not want to come to you. You may have to
Well,
soften your approaches.
Well, I think Dave, you pointed out kind of similar to what I did, in the fact that someone else had to tell us what we were offering was not what we thought we were offering.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so I think that's important in this as well. You can again think to yourself, "Hey, I'm offering this," but that's not the reality. That's not
Mhm.
how it's perceived. So I think this is one of those things that you may have to bounce off other people,
Mhm.
whether it's like in your case, you had someone in class tell you, hey, this is not what we're seeing, or this is not what you're offering.
Yeah, you're
uh,
interrupting the class instead of facilitating the learning
Absolutely.
process.
And in my case, again, where a friend told me, yeah, that's not the offering that I see either. So again, maybe you need to take a look at yourself. Because again, we think we may, like you said, we may say we're an expert. We may say that we have all this, or this is what we're offering. And that's not really the case. It's
Mhm.
not being received that way. It's not being perceived that way. So I think that's an important element of this, where everything, a lot of things we talk about is internal, but I think this is one of those areas that sometimes we just may need some feedback, some
Mhm.
constructive feedback on whether it's good or bad. That that's how people are seeing us or viewing us. I mean, I've had so many different conversations with people saying, "Hey, this is what I see," and it's not. what I think I'm portraying, or the
Mhm.
offering I think I'm providing. So I think that's important. That this part of that is to, again, make sure you're aligned with what you say you're doing or say
Mhm.
you're offering, because it may not be that case. And so
Right.
I think sometimes we need a little assistance from people that are on the other side of this, looking at us and saying, no, that's not the offering
Mhm.
that I'm receiving, or it's not being portrayed that way.
Right.
So I think that's also important.
Yeah. And the other side of that is being underconfident,
That's
not
true.
giving
Yep.
yourself enough
Yep.
credit for what you do. Oh, I'm just a
Right.
trainer. Oh, I'm just a public speaker. Oh, I'm just a, person on the assembly line. Well, are you, or are you the best at that or among the top,
Right.
and
Yep.
you're not realizing it because you don't have the confidence? So you're holding back a lot of knowledge and expertise that you could be sharing that others could be benefiting from, or you holding back because you're afraid of failure or the way people are going to perceive you. And maybe it's your supervisors and peers and bosses and leaders that are like, wow, this person is really doing a great job. Let's give them an opportunity. But I don't feel comfortable taking that opportunity. Well, there's an opportunity in itself for the peers and the managers and leaders to develop me so I can share what I really do have to offer that team or that organization or that environment.
You know what's and I that just reminded me of that same scenario, that what you just said. I had a tendency to do that when I led with certain things. Like, for
Mhm.
instance, being an aircraft mechanic, I would always say, "Well, I'm just a mechanic,"
Mhm.
and somebody corrected me on that. An individual who was my peer, we worked in the same area, and he said, "You led with, I'm just," and he
Mhm.
said, "You're much more than that." And so, to your point, sometimes other again people have to point it out for us, because we think we're lacking where we
Mhm.
should be, again, celebrating our abilities and our skills, but for whatever reason we diminish ourselves, we take away from ourselves. And I, after you mentioned that, I started thinking, what other things am I doing,
Mhm.
how am I leading in other areas, in other ways? And I realized, I started looking back and thinking, wow, I do that more often than I
Right, right.
realized. It wasn't
And I
until
do it
somebody
better than I
pointed that.
realize. People are
uh,
complimenting me. Am I taking that as, wow, that's a genuine compliment? Or am I thinking that they're just, trying to humor me? Well, that's a part that you need to really think about. What do I offer? If you have 10 people saying you're doing a great job, hopefully they're not gaslighting you and leading you on. Hopefully that is the case, that you are doing a great job if they tell you. Then you need to understand that that's one of the things that you offer that maybe you didn't realize that you offered. And a lot of,
well, again, for me, it was eye opening, because
yeah,
I
yeah.
once it was identified, then I started to recognize other areas where I did the exact same thing.
Hmm.
So, again, we think we're, a place, or our offering is much higher or more obvious than it is in some cases. And in
Hmm.
this case, that's what I recognized, that, yeah, you're right. I am downplaying, I am
Hmm.
diminishing all these things that am capable of. And it has spilled into other areas,
Right.
where I would say I'm just this, or again, shying down and saying, hey, well, this. And so I recognize that, but it took an outside person looking in and saying, hey, this is what I'm seeing. So
Hmm.
whatever you think you're offering, you're not necessarily offering
Yeah.
it. So I think that's important. I think this is one of those areas where you do need assistance from other people that are willing to
Yes.
give it
Yes.
to you straight. And
So
like
that
you
you're not
say,
overconfident or underconfident.
right, that they're giving it to you straight so that you walk. And that's what happened to me in the first scenario, where
Hmm.
I'm thinking, oh, I'm all these things. And my buddy was like, no, you're not. So
Hmm.
maybe he has a point. Maybe he should pay attention to what he's actually saying.
Hmm.
And so it's that I was overconfident. I thought I was providing this offering that I wasn't. So I
Hmm.
think that this is one of those areas where that feedback is crucial, so that you're not thinking you're over, you think you're overachieving and you're really not. You're not
Yeah.
even meeting the standards,
Right.
or you're
Right.
overachieving, but you don't believe
Yeah.
you
You're
are. So
downplaying it, and you might be being
exactly.
taken advantage of.
Exactly, because again, people a lot of times spot those types of weaknesses, and they'll, exploit them. And
Mhm.
you don't want that, because again, you may already be in a position, a positive position, but you're giving away your power.
Right.
We haven't talked about that in a while, but yeah,
Yeah.
you're allowing other people to dictate what, because of the vibe you're giving them, the offering that you're giving them. You're telling them, I'm going to be submissive. I'm going to not, accept all the power that I have. I'm going to give it to you. And
Mhm.
that's what happens if we're not, stay make sure we're aligned with what we think we're offering. So I
Right.
think that's
Yeah.
very
And when
important.
we think about what we offer, part of it is that bit of introspection, being brutally honest. Are you
Yeah.
really a subject matter expert? Are you really as good as you say you are? Are you better than you think you are? And really assessing that. And
Right.
one of the ways you can do that is by writing down what you believe your strengths are, and then what areas of opportunity you have. And then when you look at those, start breaking those down a little bit. Well, if you say you're really good at training, um, training what? Are you good at neurosurgery? Are you good at law and legal aspects? Are you good at manufacturing, new employee orientation? What aspect of training are you good at? Is it developing the training? Is it presenting the training? What areas are you really good at that you're not really recognizing, or that you're being overly generalized, you
Right.
overgeneralize. And conversely, on the areas that you need improvement, those areas of opportunity, you're not a complete failure in all those areas. It's, what are you good at within those things? Maybe it's, yeah, maybe I like to do, food recipes online. You know,
Right.
am I really good at cooking, or am I really good at presenting? Is the taste there, or is it the presentation that's there, or is it all there? But you just don't have enough exposure. So you're, air quotes, not an expert online, but you're still online. Maybe you're not giving yourself enough credit. So understanding within those realms, those areas of strengths and opportunities, where do you really reside within each one of those strengths and areas of opportunities? That's what you offer.
Right. And I think you have to go back to that critical self reflection, which we talk about all the time. And then, like you said earlier, being honest with yourself, really looking in the mirror and evaluating, is this really a strength? Is this
Mhm.
really a weakness? Or do I need some assistance? And again, this may be a point where you go and ask someone else. So these are the things I think I'm strong in. These are the things I think I need
Mhm.
help in, or areas of opportunities. What are your thoughts? And so go to that trusted advisor or someone that you can
Mhm.
count on to give you an honest answer or honest assessment of what they believe you bring to the table, or what you offer.
Mhm.
So, we talk about this all the time, that critical self reflection. You're constantly asking yourself, am I where I think I am? Or if I'm not, how do I get there? So that
Right.
all, again, help you align to defining what success means to you and whatever
Right.
that situation may be. So,
Yeah, and when we think about these things, like, and I'll use the area of finance. I'm very good in finance. Am I an expert? Well, it depends. I should probably talk to a couple of people to find out if I'm really an expert, but I am very good at finance. The next question should be, what areas of finance? Are you talking
right.
accounting? Are you talking about finance? Are you talking about material estimating? Are you talking about um, reports? Are you talking about tax? I mean, what area of finance are you very good at? Because that's going to help you further understand. Maybe you're not a material estimator, but you're really good at balancing books and projections. So understanding what you're good at and what you enjoy is important to think about when you say what you have to offer. Another thing we need to understand is there's only so much white space on that paper. So you could drill on for 3 pages about what you're really good at and what you offer, and still not provide what the receiver is looking for. So bringing that down into, one, two, or three very succinct statements that really describe and acknowledge what you do offer, so that the reader, or whoever you're presenting to or speaking to, whether it's in an interview, whether it's a mentoring or coaching session with your supervisor or peer, maybe it's with another leader because you're wanting to go into another department, another organization, you'll be able to succinctly tell them and share with them what you offer without, it's not like a Christmas list. It's not like you offer everything on Santa's list, or whatever birthday wishes that you have, 75 things. Narrow it down to 3 to 5 things that you're very good at, and follow that.
Well, you brought up a very good point. Trying to overcompensate or generalize what you said earlier, that's again could be a detriment, because again you're trying to make this long list of things that may not be relevant, or you may not be able to address all of those things. So
Mhm.
I agree, bringing it down into those manageable
Mhm.
areas that you can work on and actually uh, complete those tasks, and rather than have 100 tasks, now you may only have 5 to 10 that are manageable, that you can complete, that you can actively change, versus again having this long list of items that you need to address and never
Mhm.
get to them, because
Right.
again, and they may not be relevant, like you say, it still may require some input from others to make sure you're aligned. So
Mhm.
all those things that you may have come up with, and like you say, pages of it, and it may not be relevant to the situation or whatever you're trying to show that you offer. So really being intentional about not trying to grab everything in front of you, but rather being really particular about what types of things you need to address, what types of things are cause
Mhm.
you heart pain right now. And I think that's also important. Instead of, yeah, we can outline everything that we have issues with or concerns with, but we need to make sure that they're aligned to whatever we're trying to offer,
Mhm.
because we could be missing the mark completely, because we may be again telling someone we're a finance guru, but that's not what they asked us. They
Right.
may be wondering, okay, so what do you do in training? So that alignment piece, and making sure what you're trying to offer aligns with whatever that recipient needs from you, or again, what you're saying you're offering, make sure it's aligned.
Yeah. And I would encourage people to stay away from buzzwords and euphemisms, and
Right.
slang when they're trying to describe what they do. It may seem cool and popular to do in some arenas, but they tend to be kind of vague and abstract
Right.
and very subjective. So, you know, really be deliberate, to your point, deliberate and intentional about how you're describing what you offer.
Right.
If breezy is a new buzzword, oh, I'm a breezy expert in this. What is breezy? You know,
Right.
or I'm on fire. Well, if you tell me you're on fire, I'm going to tell you to stop, drop, and roll, and I'm going to get an extinguisher. So be careful about euphemisms and slangs and slang usage and buzzwords, because they're very short-lived.
Right.
There are times when, like optics. Optics is a great word to use in certain situations. 10 years ago, it was all the rage in business. Oh, it's all about optics. It's still about optics, but how do you want to present it? Do you want to present it in a way that's palatable to this client or this business or this team, or are you just throwing it out there to use as a buzzword to look or appear elevated in a situation? And
That
sometimes it has the exact opposite effect.
that was just where I was going to go, because you have to kind of recognize the audience you're in front of when you
Mhm.
start talking about optics. I mean, if you're talking to a special forces, their definition for optics is going to be different
Right.
than a fast food restaurant. So I mean, you have to really be aware of the audience that
When we
you're
say we're
trying
going to
to.
neutralize a situation, it's two totally different things. It could be get the
Absolutely.
customer orders down to something manageable, or it could
Absolutely.
be something a little bit more detrimental.
Right. So yeah, again, today's point, I mean, don't just throw out buzzwords that sound cool. I mean, because on the other side of that, the reception from whatever organization you're in front of, or whatever you're trying to offer, could
Mhm.
mean totally different things. You may
Yeah,
see one team that you present this to start to close all the blinds and everything else, because it turns
Mhm.
into that type of situation, where the
Right.
other organization may be, just happy and go lucky and say, wow, that's great. So really understanding your audience
Yeah,
in whatever your offering is.
right.
If
And
you,
and
if
if
you,
you have the opportunity, use the verbiage and language that that company or that team or that
right,
organization or that department is using, and make sure you understand the language that you're using before you use it. Again,
Right.
optics, or another word I like is watch. Just
Oh,
as an
okay.
example, a
Right.
watch. Watch what? Are you watching with your eyes, or are you talking about the watch, the thing that's on my wrist?
Right.
Right. So, understanding that words have different meanings to different people and different teams. Another example that I like to use in business is FOD, which is an abbreviation for foreign object debris and foreign object damage. So
Right.
you have to
Yep.
be careful about when you're using those acronyms and making sure that you're using them appropriately. Because if you don't, FOD and FOD can be interchanged and completely change the dynamics of that discussion
Right.
very
Yep.
quickly. So,
Yep.
using, at least understanding their language is important, and utilizing it when appropriate. But I would again stay away from using acronyms, and especially overuse of acronyms.
Right. No, I was, getting feedback for an interview years ago, and that's exactly what the gentleman told me. He said, I understood what you were saying because I had a military background,
But the four other
but
people on
my
the panel,
peers,
yeah.
exactly, that's exactly what he said. He said my peers struggled after you left. They were asking me, questions about the different acronyms, what they meant. So that is again a lesson learned for me that yeah, know who your audience is, and try to refrain from using acronyms because again, not everybody in the room is going to understand what you're saying, and sometimes you're going to miss the point totally because
Right.
they're going to try and figure it out and miss everything you said after you said the acronym. So just
Mhm.
really, and again, he gave me that good feedback, to really consider that in future interviews or future interactions with people. So that's a very good point. Try to refrain from those acronyms.
Yeah.
You may know what they are, and one or two other people may, but the people that may be the most important in the room may not
Yeah.
recognize or understand. So you could be just shooting for the wall and yeah, not getting
Not even
anywhere.
worth it. Yeah,
Yeah.
and an example I like to use is our when people are transitioning from the military to the
Yeah.
civilian
Yeah.
life, they're used to a certain structure. They have in the Air Force airmen and NCOs, which are sergeants, non-commissioned officers, and you have your commissioned officers. And for the sake of simplicity, those are your pilots and other types of positions and leadership positions. How does that translate to the civilian side of things? If you're saying squadron, is that a department? Is that a team? Is that an
Right.
organization? Is
Yeah.
it a department? With your position as a senior master sergeant, what does that mean on the civilian side of things? So understanding that language and how it translates is imperative. For when you talk about what you offer, you need to make sure, you
Right.
have to be absolutely sure, or 99%, 98%, 90% confident that what you're saying you offer is going to mean something to someone on the receiving
Right.
end. So,
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a very good point. With especially with military transition, or if you're going from one industry to
I was just
another,
going to say, yep.
because yeah, what may be common terms and common practices in one industry may be totally the opposite in another industry or another
Right.
environment. So just yeah, being understanding again, if you're applying for a job and you want to showcase your offerings to make sure it's aligned with what you're trying to do in that other industry or other organization or environment. So just making sure those are aligned. So we are coming up on
Yep.
time for the session, which again went pretty quick. So Dave, I'll just ask you: do you have any other thoughts on helping define what you offer?
Yeah. How many hours do we have left? No, this is
Not
another
quite
great top.
enough.
Right. This is another one of those great topics that we could just continue to explore and pontificate and really delve into. I would say that the biggest takeaway I think that I can provide at this point is know yourself, know what you bring to the table, be confident but not overconfident, be confident but not underconfident. Find that
Okay.
good middle ground, and that can where you can really accurately convey and articulate what it is you offer.
I was that was where I was going to finish it up too. So I'm not going to belabor that. Yeah. So again, just take into account what you think you're offering and make sure it's aligned with what you think you're offering. So, with that, again, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Journeys of Not So Ordinary People podcast. And again, if there's people out there you think might benefit from tuning into these episodes, then feel free to share or reach out to us if there's something you'd like to hear about. Just we'd love to continue to help you on your journey. So anything we can do, anything that is more pertinent to what you need, then let us know. We're always welcome to hearing new topics and ideas. So with that, we want you to continue being your not so ordinary you.